I said I would make a video about mycotoxins or mold toxins, and you might be wondering is everyone talking about mold all of a sudden? Well, the main reason is that we've only recently discovered that it's not just the mold that's a problem. Mold releases these mycotoxins, which are airborne, teeny tiny little particles, and in nature, they're meant to keep the mold from getting infiltration from other molds so that their friends all stay with them and the other ones stay somewhere else. But the problem is that, especially with new construction, if you're looking at pressed particle board, then you're looking at mold spores trapped inside that pressed particle board. It's fine if it stays dry. The minute it gets wet, you have got a mold and a mycotoxin problem. So that's one of the reasons why you're hearing so much about this, because when someone is being exposed to these mycotoxins continuously, then they might have really odd symptoms that cannot be understood by someone who doesn't understand what mold does. So here's an example. This is a high school aged young lady, and she had been vomiting night and day, vomiting for several years by the time I saw her. So, of course, she'd been to all the specialists. She's been to gastroenterologists, and she went to Children's Hospital many times, pulmonologists, psychologists, psychiatrists. She'd been to everybody. And when her mom brought her in, we said, well, let's test to see if this is what the problem is, because nausea and vomiting is a common symptom. So we did a urine test. There was mycotoxins coming out in her urine. So obviously there's something in her environment. They went home and they checked it out. And she was sleeping right next to a vent. And that vent was an AC/heating unit, right? HVAC. And so in the warm weather, it started growing mold in it. So then, regardless of the weather, she was getting these mycotoxins blown right in her face while she was sleeping. So we detoxed her from the mold using intravenous glutathione, and they cleaned up the environment. She's been fine ever since. That was a few years back. Another place where people find these molds are under old carpet, behind walls, basically anywhere there's been a leak. For a mold to grow, you need to have mold spores and a water source, and it's good to go. So that's the first problem with mold. Mold, mycotoxins, airborne, released, goes through walls, goes through floors, and we breathe it in. Some people can get rid of it on their own, and other people need help getting rid of it. So that's a new discovery, these mold mycotoxins. And we used to think that black mold was the bad one, Stachybotrys. But now we know that all the molds that are able to grow indoors, Aspergillus, Penicillium, Fusarium, they all release these mycotoxins. And if you're one of those unlucky people that store them, then you're going to be getting sick if you're exposed to them. So that's one thing, external mold exposure. The second thing is mold colonization, meaning that a mold is able to come in spore form and hang out in your body and wait for an opportunity to expand its populations and colonize. That can only happen in two places in the body where you can actually still be walking around like you're not sick, even though you don't feel good. Sinuses is one place, and the digestive system is the other place. So, in terms of digestion, what I find is that we know that the GI1 powder can act against Aspergillus and Candida, so mold and yeast. But sometimes people have a stronger species in there, and we need to go after it with a stronger antifungal treatment, in which case I'll run a blood panel to see if we can find evidence of colonization in the body. It doesn't tell us where, but I can tell by symptoms where we're dealing with. And the symptoms in the digestive tract are symptoms that get better with the GI1 protocol: gas, bloating, constipation. But for people that have mold, it might not be strong enough. So I like to use it still initially to build up the system, get a nice mucus layer in there, increase the immune system capacity, knock down some of the trapped gas, bloating symptoms, and help with constipation. But sometimes I will need to do a blood test to see if we can find evidence of any kind of mold colonization, and then go in there with a stronger antifungal. And I've made other videos on what those options are. So I hope that helps clear up some of the confusion around mold, mycotoxins, environmental mold, and internal mold colonization. They're two different things, but they both make you really sick.